Hey, I'm Michael Dorinda,
And I'm Jake Bennett.
and welcome to episode 157 of the North Meet South Web Podcast. Ha. Ba-ba-ba-bow.
Good deal. Hey, internet went out with garbage. Are you there?
Yours or mine?
There you are.
Hello.
It cut out for a second.
Huh.
I don't know. Somebody's. It's back now.
All right.
It's crazy to me that this works at all, honestly. The whole, 14 and a half hour thing, it's wild to me. It is absolutely wild to me.
14 and a half hours,
we can talk in real time.
Mm-hmm.
In real time with video. Never thought it'd be my reality.
And
right?
only just a little bit of latency.
I mean, hardly any. It's pretty darn close. I mean, pretty good.
It is pretty.
So
good.
Hey, we've been chatting a little bit about some of the issues you've been dealing with at work. Not issues, just challenges, unique challenges. Yeah. So I thought we could chat about that a little bit today.
Yeah, I was thinking about.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how we could talk about that in some kind of exactly what I want to talk about, but in the abstract, so that it's not too specific to what I do in my day job. So I'll see how I go about this, and if it makes sense.
Okay. I have one other similar challenge, like not similar challenge, but just a UI sort of question. And so I can throw that off you at the end of this one too, and we can chat about that a little bit. Yep. Okay. You go first.
So we have this notion of, let's call it a referral program, I guess, because that's effectively what it is. It's a referral program.
Okay.
And the affiliate of the referral program has an agreement. Me as like the intermediary allows you as the downstream user,
Okay.
And let's say David Hemphill as the affiliate. So you two have an agreement through me as the intermediary. Now, David Hemphill, in setting up this agreement, can set on his referral account some fees. What he will pay you based on the referrals that you send to him that are successfully closed. Now, these referrals, we set a default. So every affiliate that signs up and creates an agreement will have these fees attached to their agreement. It's not a one-to-many. We're not taking like that value and linking it to the agreement as a record. This is a snapshot in time. So today, David Hemphill says,
can I interrupt real quick and just clarify a couple things real quick? Okay, so let's name your business as Widget Company. All right. So your widget company sells widgets, and David Hemphill is signing up as a person who's going to be selling your services, essentially, right? Yes. So he is a person who has got a partnership with you, but now he is going to set up an affiliate program on his side to let me sell services that he provides. Is that the idea? But it's actually you. Maybe it's like a white label service, so you could think of it like that, something like that. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that helps me make a little bit more sense. So your widget company A, David is signing up as a person who's going to sell products of widget company A, and now I, as a person who am signed up like under David, am now an affiliate. And David on his side can set up a referral program, and there's fees associated with these different referral programs that he's set up. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. All right. So he could have multiple different types of referrals programs set up. So he could set one up for me. He could set one up for his family where they get more, if he wanted to, for instance, or he could set up one that's just a, hey, if somebody advertises on their podcast and we get a referral from them, then you get 5% or something like that. Right. So he can have multiple different things set up. Okay. Got it. I'm on the same page.
So this a referrer, David, sets his fees. Yes. There are two different ways that we can pay fees. It's either a fixed amount between a range of things. So from like, if you sell something between $0 and $1,000, I will pay you $100 referral. If it's between $1,000 and $5,000, it's $200. If it's $5,000, whatever. Like, so they're bracketed ranges.
So it's stepped, a stepped fee
stepped or
structure.
bracketed.
Okay.
Yep. And then at the end, it could be like 50,000 to whatever we'll pay you, and then we cap it at 500. So,
okay.
So we don't handle the payments. All we're storing is these things so that you know, based on what you refer to David, this is the payment that you'll be receiving for a successful transaction.
Makes sense.
Then we also do percentage based. So it's a percentage of the total amount up to
that makes sense.
some limit. So we could say up to $50,000. So you send $1,000, we'll pay 2% of 50,000 of that $100,000 or whatever. So these are the things we have now. As I said, David would configure this in our platform.
Okay. Yes.
Specifying the ranges, whatever that. These then become the defaults for anyone who signs up to his affiliate program.
And what do you call these bracketed or percentage ranges? What's the name for them? Is it fees? Is that what you're calling it?
Yeah. So we've basically got, I think it's flat fee and percentage.
Okay. And he then attaches a flat fee or a percentage fee to a specific referral program that he's set up? Is that kind of
so
how
you
that
have
works?
one program. This is this is what it always is. This is the default for anyone that joins. Now, on a per agreement basis, he could alter that. So for a friend, he might increase it slightly. For a podcast audience, he might decrease it.
Yeah. Okay. So the referral agreement is what the fee is attached to, sort of.
Yeah. So in that situation, we would void if they sign up for the agreement and it changes, we would void the original agreement, create a new agreement to be signed and executed with those values set on that agreement.
Okay.
So we don't have to do any calculations. We're not responsible for the payments or tracking. We just say this is. We'll obviously track the numbers. Payments have happened, but these are the numbers. This goes into a PDF that is sent to you, that you sign, that you send back, and then that's the agreement in place. So where my, complexity comes in is for a referral fee that is attached to my referral account. How am I storing this? Now, I've got a few different ways that it can be done. We don't need to search on any of this stuff. So my first thought was, let's just have two fields on the referral fees table. So we have obviously the referral account. We then have a fixed or a flat fee and a percentage, right? And these are just JSON arrays. They're arrays of objects of the bracketed ranges, whatever.
Sure.
And so this was my first.
And when you say referral account, is that an agreement or referral agreement that you're saying?
So David has a referral account.
You've used the word agreement a couple of times. I'm trying to understand what agreement is.
So David has a referral account, which says that he is a referrer. And then the people that he has affiliations with will have a referral agreement. So you will have a referral agreement.
Got it.
Chris Camille will have one. TJ DeMiller will have one.
Yes.
And that will be separate.
So David owns the account, and then he signs an agreement with me, the person who's going to be sending him business. Okay. And on that agreement is where you store the fees, or on the account?
Yep. So the account has the default, both, right?
Okay.
So the account has the default values. When the agreement is created, we take the values that are default and we put them, and then we copy them across, basically.
That makes sense.
So on the agreement, there is on the agreement, we have another table that's like agreement fees, and we copy from the agreement from the fees table, from the defaults to the agreement fees table, and that
makes
is
sense
linked together.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay.
So, and then that just gets generated into a PDF one time. It gets saved, it gets attached to the account, and that's it. We don't calculate it. We don't have to do anything with it. It can be displayed in the account. This is your active agreement kind of thing.
Okay.
But it doesn't change unless.
So once it's I gotcha.
So my hold up here is, how do I store this? And put it in the database. There's two ways that I've thought about it. The first one is just JSON fields, two JSON fields on there that we just copy around. And then we cast those collection. Basically, it's an array of objects. So we have I started this out as just like a plain old PHP object, just a renode class that had, 3 values on it. I ended up rolling all that back and just using Laravel data because it handles all of the stuff that I had to write for myself.
Okay.
So essentially, we have a data collection of flat fee in one
Okay.
field, in the flat fee field,
Hmm.
and we have
Okay.
and then we just have like a flat object for the percentage, because the
Okay.
percentage is just, I don't
It's
believe
much
it's
easier.
tiered.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
There's no brackets to it. It's just you'd have the
No.
percentage and you have the cap.
Yep. Yep. So this was my first thought. My second thought was, okay, we follow the Adam Wathan school of thinking. We push polymorphism to the database, and we just have like a record that says, this is the thing, and then there's another table that has the ranges, minimum,
Sure.
maximum value,
Sure.
and then a
Sure.
second table which has all the percentage stuff, and
Yeah.
then we just reference those corresponding records in that table, and so we've got the poly, so that when we hydrate the eloquent record for the
Yep.
agreement,
You're just
we can
pulling a
just
model
say,
up. Yeah.
yeah, and then we go, we need to go and create this data object over here. So it's basically, how do we persist it, and what are we comfortable with doing?
Hmm. So, you said that you're never actually going to need to do any calculations with these. It's just for display purposes.
Not calculating, not searching. It's just like
Okay.
we would go
Well, then
to the
I feel
thing and
like
we
that
would like
makes it a
load
lot
the
easier.
record. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes it a lot easier because, there's not as much, you don't have to like be able to pull it into some object that can do a bunch of calculations and things like that if you throw a number at it. So if it's just for display purposes, as long as you will be able to keep them the same, uh, like as far as like what the object would look like over time, then you should be fine.
Mhm.
Um, because if you ended up updating it, so like let's say like okay, well now we need to add a new one that's like, well this is the minimum amount we'll pay out even for bracketed ones. Like we'll pay a
Mhm.
minimum of $100 even if you send a referral that's only $500. Like
Yeah.
minimum of 100, maximum of 500. Well now you have this new minimum one to deal with, and you
Mhm.
didn't before. So, but I guess in that case, you could just sort of have your view logic say, well, if there's a minimum, display it. If there's not, don't worry about it, sort of deal. So you could just use conditional logic to make sure you're
Mhm.
displaying this. And I feel like that's probably going to get you every almost
Yeah.
everything you need.
Yeah.
And if you did need to change it in the future, you always could. You have the objects
Yeah.
there. You could
Yeah.
always eject and sort of persist them to another
Mhm.
location. So if it was me doing it, I'd probably just store them right alongside the database records initially. And then if I
Mhm.
needed to later on change it out, I would do that. But I wouldn't even
Yeah.
worry about that until I got it started and got it working and make sure that people are using it and get some more insight into how it's
Mhm.
being used and make all those other changes that they're going to ask for before you get into a really, you know, normalized database situation where you might
Yeah.
not need it.
Right. Because then the trick is always at that point where you've got, the account, and then you've got the fees, and then the agreements, and then you've
Yeah.
also got like the flat fees and the percentage fees, and all, so you've got like 5 or 6
Yeah.
models just to do all this
Yeah.
stuff.
And
Um,
probably a lot of
or
duplicated data, to be honest, duplicated records. Like there's probably going to be so many, they're going to be the exact same,
Yeah.
you know?
And the thing is, if you
So,
go and change your defaults, when you post that form back to the server, we're not going to try and like modify existing stuff. We're just going to replace it with whatever you have
right.
sent, and this is the
Exactly.
new set.
Yeah.
So it's not like we need to go and send a patch to, slash flat fees slash one slash
Totally.
whatever. It's just going to be, take whatever was posted in the form, and that is the new canonical set of
Yep.
default values.
Yep. And the other thing you could do too is you could put like a version number on the agreement if you wanted to. Like if you wanted
Hmm.
to do something radically different, you could say like, okay, well, from moving forward, every new agreement that we make is going to be V2. And then
Hmm.
our not our decorator, I guess it would be your decorator possibly could say, okay, we're looking at a V2. So we know that it's going to have these types of values. And then you could just
Yeah.
change out how you display it. So you could do that too. So yeah, I think that gets you 95% of what you would
Yeah.
want. I mean, I can't really
It's a,
imagine a scenario where that wouldn't work.
yeah. Because there's no, like, we don't foresee, this is how it's always been. It's either a flat fee on a range, or it's a percentage up to some threshold. It's never really changed. The thing that's bit us in the past with doing things like this is, if the structure of the object changes, you have to be really careful about doing it in a backwards compatible way. So when you're trying to deserialize that JSON back into an object in PHP, if the things don't line up, you can get into the situation where it's, if you've got the state stored in the database in one way, and you've added a new required field, you have to make sure that that new required field is nullable, because the stuff that's already persisted in
Yeah.
the database doesn't
Is
know
not going
about
to
it.
have it. Yeah. Yep.
So that's one. The other thing that's bit us in the past is when we tried to move classes around. So they were in one namespace. We tried to move them to a new namespace. Obviously,
Yeah.
everything that was previously persisted with a reference to that specific path was now referencing something that wasn't there. And so it tried to
Yeah.
hydrate that object, and that all blew up. So
It fails. Yeah.
the sparsely Laravel data package does have, similar to morph maps with Eloquent, you can
Right.
map
Yep.
strings to classes.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's some hesitation in the team. Like, do we really want to be putting more JSON in the database? Or like polymorphism is more, I suppose, with separate models and things like that, a more designs like slash structured approach. I think ultimately you end up at the same destination
Mm-hmm.
in that you are storing
You're
some
just trading
values.
complexity. You're
You're
just
trading
trading
complexity because
complexity. Really. I
otherwise you
mean,
end up with, like I said, there's 5 or 6 models, and then there's 5 or 6 tables, and you've got these tables that basically just have 3 columns in them that are just values. And
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think, given that this is 90% display only, I don't think it needs to be split out that way. I
And that's
think,
why I would just make the argument to the team to be like, listen, let's just get it shipped. Let's get it out in production with this simpler version of it. And then
yeah,
if we need to make it more complex, we can. There's nothing holding us back from doing that. But
if we don't
let's
ever
at
need to
least
think about it, yeah.
let's ship the simplest version of it. And then if it needs that additional complexity, if it needs that additional, I mean, not type safety, but like kind of, I guess, a little bit. And you can attach some behavior. But like the thing is, you're serializing, you're going to cast those things to those objects, right? When you pull them back out of it. So it's like, I really don't know. I don't know that you gain that much other than
Yeah.
saying like, if you change it in the future, you're going to have maybe a little bit, you feel better, a little bit better about it, because there's just sort of a loose structure right now. But I don't know. It seems like shipping it just in the database in that same table is going to give you what you need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get the, like, this has bit us in the past. I don't think, like, what we did in the past was kind of gnarly because we had like really big objects that we were serializing into the database,
Yeah.
and we only moved things once, and moving it once was enough of a problem for
Headache to
us
be
that
like,
that's where we
yeah.
put the map in, so we can always change what object is hydrated based on um the string, which is fine. But the complication is versioning that thing and making sure that you're
Yeah.
not introducing. I know that Stripe does the versioning of their API, so they kind of like transform the thing through the different versions as you go up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is it is a level of complication that we probably don't need to introduce. I think if we were to just go, everything that is done has to be additive. We can't remove fields. We need
Yeah.
to add fields that are nullable by default, because there may be things in the database that don't support that structure. Being mindful of that is probably better than tying ourselves to database, like extra tables for.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a way. There is a way. I don't remember. Aaron Francis talked about it at one time, where there is a way to set up something that will
You do virtual
enforce the
columns.
JSON schema.
Yeah.
Yeah, virtual
Oh,
columns, but there was a way to
yeah.
enforce JSON schema inside of the MySQL database, so you can ensure that the schema stays the same. So it basically gives
Effectively
you a
have a
little more
table inside of a
confidence.
column. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
right.
someone that submitted to speak at Laracon this year, and I said, "There's no way you were doing this," but they suggested like putting SQLite databases inside
Inside of
of
MySQL. How fun.
inside of MySQL columns.
I mean, that's
I
literally,
don't.
here's the crazy thing. What's old is new again. I
Right.
mean, we have this at work. The legacy database that we're working on is called Universe Database,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
multi-valued columns. And so you have columns inside of columns. So you have like table, you have the debtor table with attribute 15, because they don't have names, they just have numbers.
Yeah.
Attribute
Just numbers.
15, multi-value 3. So it's like it's a 3-dimensional table. It's not like a 2-dimensional like we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's the same. It's so funny. And so when I talk to the old graybeards there about like, NoSQL stuff, they're like, oh, you kids are just reinventing what we've already had for years.
That's all we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but this talk came through and I messaged it. I'm like, I can't be responsible for you putting this out into the world.
It's funny.
We're not doing it.
But I say that because like if the fear is, oh, there are going to be inconsistencies or whatever, like you can get around that. There is a way to enforce to make sure that the JSON schemas isn't enforced on that column. The other thing you could do if they're really sensitive about it or really worried about it is you could just store along with that particular thing. You could store version number, and then you could have when you deserialize it, or cast it in the database, you could have it automatically look at the version and then do a different casting or a different version of the DTO based on that. So
and there's like, we don't even have to put a version number in there now. If it becomes problematic, we can put it in there and figure out how to make that work later. Like if there is no version field on this DTO, then we can just say, well, we don't need to worry about it. That's like version 1, and then everything after that, then if we do need to change the structure, then
if it had a version
2.
Yeah.
But I think through we'll do the testing, and build out of this first version and just say like, this is version 1. We'll figure out pretty quickly if it's problematic or not. We've done it in the past. Making them these like Laravel data objects means that we can type them, which means when they go back to the front end, which is built in React, they have all of the type safety and all of the completion stuff.
Get that all the way through.
Ready to go. So
you guys
we've got
it generates the
the
TypeScript object. Nice.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool actually.
So I don't have any understanding or comprehension or even want to know what the heck is going on in the front end. Safe to say that I just need to attach some attributes to these data objects, and then they get what they need on the front end, and then I just back into the
hands off. Yeah. Well, cool. That makes a lot more sense to me now that you explained it that way. Yeah, I think attaching like the personas to the different parties in the system helps make a little bit more sense of it. So yeah, it was when you were talking about it the other day, it was semi-clear. But it makes more sense now.
Well, you can't ask questions in those one-way kind of things as easily. So
yeah. I was actually.
But I just sit in the middle. I just sit in the middle and hold all the database records, right? And then it's people come through me.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So I was when you were asking that question on Telegram the other day, I was taking Harrison out fishing, and so he's been on a big fishing kick recently. There's a pond by our house, and there is a spot right by the edge of this pond where a tree overhangs the water, and so it's a shaded spot. And I think there are like ants and bugs like in this tree that will drop off the tree into the water there.
Oh, yeah.
And so there is just a bunch of fish. Yeah, a bunch of fish there. And so it's not even real fishing. I mean, I take him there and I'm not
fish
kidding.
Smarter, not harder.
I'm not kidding. He literally puts a hot dog on, because I found out hot dogs are much easier to let a kid bait than worms, because they don't like to, whatever.
There's no like, it's a worm. No, it's just a hot dog.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just a hot dog. And so he will barely even drop the hot dog in the water, and he doesn't even cast it. He literally puts the pole and puts it in the water. The bobber's there, and he literally he doesn't reel. He just pulls them up. And it's crazy how fast they catch them. He catches these things. And so he just wants to go fishing all the time, because he just catches them one right after the other. But he's learned how to put the bait on now, and he's learned how to take the fish off by himself. Hold it, put the spikes down on the, the fins down, and, the dorsal fin or whatever. And so he's got all that figured out, and he caught a bass the other day, which he was really excited about. Excellent. But the little lesson that I learned also while I was there is I've been drinking Liquid Death recently. So I gave up soda for the year. You know what Liquid Death is? Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay, so it looks like a tall boy like beer. It looks like a big beer can, like those tall beer cans.
Long neck. Yep.
And so
a can or a bottle?
It's a can. Hold on. You want me to show you?
Okay.
You want me to show you what it looks like?
Yeah. Show the viewers.
Hold on one second. I'll be right back.
Okay. Riveting podcasting, by the way.
So this is what it looks like.
Right. Okay. So, gotcha.
So it looks like beer is what it looks like.
Dead billionaire.
It's just water.
Right.
It says "Murder Your Thirst." That's like their thing, and they had to name this one. This one used to be called Armless Palmer instead of Arnold Palmer lemonade and tea.
Yep.
But Arizona Tea threatened to sue them if they didn't change the name. So like, screw you, we're calling it Dead Billionaire then. And so Arnold Palmer was a golfer, whatever, Dead Billionaire. I thought it was funny. But anyway, I took this with me fishing the other day when there was people walking by or whatever, and Harrison was taking drinks of my water.
Oh.
And I think people thought that he was drinking a beer because one of the kids walked by and he's like, "Hey, can I move your dad's beer?" And he was like, "Oh, that's not," Harrison was like, "That's not beer." He's like, "It's just water." He was like, "Oh," I'm pretty sure they thought that I was just letting my kid drink, my 7-year-old drink a beer.
That's pretty funny.
So anyway, I'm having to be more careful about where I take this stuff. It's super good. I've been drinking a lot of it recently, but that was funny. Anyway, yes. Okay. So we can get to my thing. So I don't know if I want to like blow the top off this. There is a thing that Zangle created a while ago, and they didn't actually create it. I requested early access to it, but it's called myuser.guide. And it's not like a secret. It's out there on the web. It looks really cool. It's basically team profiles for your teams, right? So just like they can, it's a very, very simple. It has like, hey, here's my social profiles. Here's a little info thing about me. Here's what teams I'm a part of. Here's some questions that I answered. Here's some personality profiles that go along with me. If you use like the Enneagram or you use Widget or you use the DISC or whatever. So different companies use different things sometimes.
Right.
And so there's been recently this push by our people resources team to add some things like, so we've done these personality tests, and they're like, we've spent a lot of time teaching on this. We'd really like for people to be able to see other people on their team, their personality profile stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, there's no great way to do that in Teams, and we don't really have like a profile thing for our people. And so I was like, let's just build this. Let's just actually build it. Because I reached out to Jesse Shutt about this like years ago, and he was like, yeah, we sort of put it on the back burner. We're not really doing anything with it. And so that like literally is probably 3 or 4 years ago. And so I'm like, screw it. So I just gave it to some of my guys internally. I was like, hey, make this, like do this. And so we're working on it. But if you go to I could send you the picture. There is a part that has a questions library public profile. You can see the public profile. So what you'll see is like on the left-hand side, there's like their picture and stuff in a column on the left, like a 1/3 column on the left has like their picture, their socials, and then their little about me. On the right-hand side, 2/3 column on the top, it has like any personality profiles that you've filled out, that they've filled out for them. And then underneath that, you have answered questions. Okay. So this is the challenge. How do you allow the person to edit their profile and the questions, right? So with the profile, it's easy. You just allow them to edit their social links, edit their location, edit their about, maybe a website if they have one. That's it for the profile part.
Yeah.
But like, do they edit that separate from the questions that they answer? Like, are those two separate things? Because the questions are not questions that you just make up about yourself. They're like, you could add new questions, so it's probably like a database that has, here's the questions, right? And then you have a relationship between the questions and the user in an answers table, right? So question, user, in the middle, you have answers, right? So it's the answer to that question. It's a pivot table, basically. And
who's creating the questions? Are they like,
they're standard questions that we create.
So it's like, so you create, here's the 10 questions or something, and people can answer them.
Go answer them.
So they would only display if you have an answer
if they've
for them,
answered them.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Right. And if you wanted to answer more of them, you could probably answer as many as you want, like up to like, you could either limit it and say like, pick your top 5 or pick 10, or if you've answered all 10, then you can display all 10. But I'm just trying to think about like the actual user flow from being on their profile page, which is what they're probably going to see when they hit their default homepage. It's going to say like, here's your profile.
Yeah.
Or it might show their team dashboard or something. I don't know. But in any case, when they want to edit their profile, they're probably going to go to their profile and then they're going to click edit somewhere, right? So in my brain, I'm thinking like edit profile is just those pieces, like my socials, my about me, my location. And then questions is probably something separate, like over on the bottom right-hand side where they're displaying the questions. You'd probably just have like answer questions or something like that.
Yeah. Like it depends on what you call them, like my profile or my questions or my answers, really,
Right. It is my answers. Yeah.
or about me. You know, whatever
Mm.
you call that. I'd probably put it as like a separate tab or a separate page that they can get to,
Hmm.
and then that really is just a form of, I guess, all of the questions with a text area underneath that, they put their answer in, and if there is an answer, then you display it, and if not, it's just an empty text box. And then when you save it, you just, filter out wherever the answers are and create the records or update the records.
Yeah, I sent you a picture here, so like you can see kind of how the profile looks, and we can throw this in the show notes too.
Hmm.
Um, but you can see kind of like how the answers are on the bottom right hand side of the page there.
Yeah.
So they have like answered questions. So like what I'm wondering is like, do I put an edit button by answered questions and say like edit your answers or something like
Mhm.
that? Edit answers, and then
Yeah.
it would show you, hey, here's the ones that you've answered so far. Here's the ones you haven't answered, right? Maybe like answered questions and then like
Yeah.
questions to answer, something
I
like
think
that,
so.
like sort of separate
Yeah.
them. So like if they click answer more questions, it would show like a question library or something like
Yeah.
that for them
Yeah. I'd certainly
specifically
like order it so that the questions they have answered are first,
at the top.
and then
Yeah, yeah.
anything else is at the bottom.
Hmm.
Um,
I feel like it would be better for me, like if I was the person wanting to see it, I wouldn't want to have to go and answer each question individually. I'd want to be able to
yeah.
just like on that page fill out any of them, like see any of the
Yeah.
answers that I have just sort of in line, and then just
Mhm.
have blank text boxes for any of the ones that I don't yet
I
have
mean, is
filled
this
out.
where we bring back like click to edit for each one?
Actually, yeah. I mean, right? I mean, you could
Which
do
is
that.
something
You could just make this a
I've been in
live wire thing.
Salesforce. Yeah, I've been in Salesforce lately, and when you like double click on any field, it changes the whole thing into an editable field. Like the whole
Hmm.
page, the whole form becomes an editable field, and then it converts all of the, you know, the text, the spans or whatever, into text areas with the same stuff or inputs with the same stuff. So you could just, yeah, double click on it, and that would convert the text um to a text area. I think the trick will be with the questions that have not been answered yet. Like, do you just
Hmm.
always display a text area for those ones with a
Right. Right.
placeholder of
That's
like, tell us what you think about this, or
Yeah. To
some
be honest with
variation
you,
of that?
I feel like I feel like I could almost do something like just show the questions and any answer that they have. Like if they have an
Mhm.
answer, show it in the text area,
Yeah,
and then when they
or you
press
just change that.
save on the
Yeah,
page, it just saves whatever questions they've answered and removes any that they haven't.
yeah. I mean, if it's a Livewire thing, you could just on Blur go and update that field. Um,
Totally.
it may be a case, right, that when you create the profile, it just goes and inserts all of those answers as empty,
Yes.
and then
Yep.
you filter only the answered questions to
Where the
display
answer
on
isn't
like the
null.
public profile. But
Yeah.
if it's the user that's logged in and going there, okay, just show it all as text areas, and then when they
Yeah.
blur, whether it's a form with all of the things in it or they're their own individual forms, I don't know. Six
Right.
of one, half and a dozen. Flip the coin, as it were.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if you're viewing your own page, maybe it just makes sense to make everything a text area, especially if you pre-create the answer records
Yeah.
when you create the profile.
Right.
Otherwise, you
Right.
otherwise you have like this murky thing where it's like, okay, this top section is the questions that you have answered. If you want to edit the answer, you've got to click on it, and then it changes it to a text area, and then
Yeah.
you've got to like save it, or you've got to
Yeah.
have an edit button or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you've got
Yeah.
all of these text areas at the bottom, so it's a disjointed
That'd
user
feel right.
experience.
Yeah, it'd feel weird. Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's either everything's a text area for a logged in user, so they can go and edit their stuff, or it's just the text if it's and then, or the alternative is that it's all just text, and then below the folder wherever it is, you have 5 unanswered questions, and you click edit, and it turns the whole thing into an editable form.
Yeah. Yep, edit answers, and then at
Yeah.
that point, it just shows them. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I think I like that. I think I want, yeah, because I want to keep it just super simple. So I have my brand new junior developer working on this, and I think he's really needing some clarity on exactly what direction to go. Because I just sort of threw it at him like, hey, there's some designs for this. Just go make this.
Yeah.
And so it's CRUD. It's very CRUD. There's not a whole
Hmm.
lot to it, but I think
Yeah.
he's struggling with like the structure of like, how do I do this UI? So right now what he's got is he's got a different page for each question to answer,
Yeah,
and
definitely
it's
wouldn't do
like,
that.
No, I don't think
not as like a wizard or whatever. I think it's all on the same page.
I agree.
And like I said, if it's live wire components,
that,
the component can just be like, on the mount, it takes the question and the answer.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And then so you just got like 30 of these on the page, and then when you blow or whatever, it just I think that will be the trick, is how do you save it if they're individual components? Because someone might type something in there and then like just go away from the page and it doesn't save, and that
you'd want to
would not be ideal. So
and you don't want to save it in the middle of them typing either. Like you don't want to like debounce it and then save it because they're not, they're halfway through an answer in public. It's all of a sudden a public profile, or they're just kind of like putting their thoughts down and they haven't saved it yet. And then, they press enter on accident and it saves it or something. Like you'd want to.
So I think it probably needs to be an explicit save. But then you've got to figure out where, you're going to have effectively 10 forms on the page that have all got their own
I think button. What I'd do then, I think what I would do is I would probably have on each question, if they've answered it, I would show their answer and I would have an edit button, but the edit button would just basically change it into a text area, and then it would become a save button or something like that, or you'd have a save underneath it. Yeah, I think that's what I'd do.
Yeah. So I think
make an explicit edit, show them all at the same time. If they want to edit them, they can just click edit. Yeah.
I think for consistency of experience, when you create the profile, create all of the questions, create all of the answers with nothing in them. And then when they go to this page, they can edit on that page, and it just gives you the text area. If there's text there, it'll show it. If there's no text there, type, and then everyone gets their own little save button. So it's an explicit, okay, I'm ready to save. I finished my thought, go kind of thing.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, I think that works.
I like that. So I'm actually pretty excited about it because I think we've wanted to do some of this stuff for a while, where like we have people who have been here for quite a while, and they'll go through different departments. Like they'll go from, the support team to, they'll go from like our subrogation support team to like our claims examiner team. And then they'll go from there to like a production role where they'll be like in our core team. And then they'll graduate to like a frontline adjuster, and then they'll make it to a full budget adjuster. Like, so it's like, it would be really cool to be able to like see their progression through the company, but we have nowhere to store any of that information. We have nowhere we're keeping track of any of that either. And so
HRIS.
I don't know what that is.
Resources Information System.
Ah, there you go. Yeah. Well, I suppose they do keep track of it. They do have some of that actually. But we just recently got the API working for that thing. That was a freaking nightmare. Dude, I spent half a day trying to figure out why I could not get authenticated with their API. And then there was some obscure spot where like, oh, here's the API token, but you have to put the word bearer in front of your API token in order for it to work. Like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. Authorization headers has to be bearer space token.
Yeah. Which I use for like if I'm doing a Laravel way, in Laravel land. But it's like this one, it's like you're literally using their demo page where they're like, hey, try out our APIs. And then it's like, put your API key in. It's like, oh, okay, I'll put my API key in here. And they're like, well, you have to put the word bearer in front of it. It's like, why? I'm putting my API token in.
Yeah.
Why don't you check and see if I have the word bearer?
That's right. Look, is it bearer space? If not, then just stick it on the front.
Exactly. So anyway, well, this has been helpful. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll keep you updated. And shout out to those guys at Zangle. If they do end up creating this, I will probably be a customer. I've already requested early access a long time ago. So not trying to rip you guys off, promise. I just really love your design and love the idea. So we're not selling it.
Reach out to Jesse and Phil.
Be like, hey, we've got something started here.
Yeah, we built this thing.
You can have it.
Should we just like, can we put this up here? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not going to be public either. It's really only going to be internal. And like I have a, it's cool. Like I'm actually going to have internal DNS of wilbur.me / the name of the person. So I think that'll be pretty cool. Yeah. So wilbur.me / Jake Bennett or wilbur.me / Michael Dorinda or whatever, And so it's, nobody on the outside will be able to resolve it because wilbur.me doesn't, I don't know if that's I certainly don't own it.
No.
So anyway.
But if you own the internal DNS for everyone, then sure, you
right, which we do. Yep.
Point it all at 10.1.1.4 or whatever, and off you go.
Yeah, and you're set to go.
Amazing.
All right, dude. Well, why don't we wrap this one up? 157. Is that what this one was? Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Episode 157. Show notes for this can be found at northmeetsouth.audio /157. Hit us up on Twitter at Jacob Bennett, at Michael Drinder, or at North South Audio. And as always, rate us up in your podcast. Catch our choice. 5 stars would be amazing. Till next time, my friends. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.